And in order to respond to this kind of challenge, the particular one municipality can't deal with this and can't tackle with this challenge unless and until the municipalities work in a way, in a kind of in a way where more than one municipality work together to deal with these. It's possible to reduce the emission and even to enjoy the carbon fund from World Bank and other organizations. We need to have first the inventory and the situation, what exactly the situation that persists now. That will tell us that how much we can get from the such kind of carbon credit fund. And in order to do so, perhaps in Kathmandu Valley, all municipality can work together. And that's how I am, on behalf of the Municipal Association of Nepal, we are promoting such kind of activities so that inter-municipal cooperation can respond to such kind of challenges. For example, all municipality can't afford landfill site now. Nowadays, people say land processing center rather than landfill site. Let alone dumping site. Gone are the days when people used to say dumping site. People gradually said, sanitary landfill site. But now people are saying waste processing center. Because if you mix that waste, if you segregate, that becomes resource. That's but in order to do all these things, a particular municipality can't do alone. So in a cluster or in a fashion, what we call inter-municipal cooperation, that is possible. And last but not the least, what I would like to make a point here in this very important gathering is that now this is the time to localize the very idea. Because if you see Annex 8 and the responsibility that has been given to the local governments, exclusive right number 19 has talked about renewable energy. That's the responsibility of the municipalities or the rural municipalities. And at the same time, exclusive right number 10 has talked about the ecology and environment. So these are very interlinked. And unless and until the local government has incorporated the renewable energy into their master plan, what they now call is integrated town development plan or periodic plan, this issue can't be resolved, or we can't enjoy the real benefit that we can reap out of the renewable energy. Because the mega cities, metro cities, or what we call smart cities, livable cities, are not possible without renewable energy. That's why in my part, on behalf of Municipal Association of Nepal, we are promoting and we are working towards this by orienting the municipalities while they develop their integrated town development plan to, asking or requesting them to incorporate the renewable energy into their master plan. That's how probably we can do, and probably we need to also do collaboration with the renewable energy and relevant ministries in order to ensure that all cities and towns are very much renewable energy friendly in our country. Thank you so much.
How it is different now with the new federal context, and what are the issues that has been created or that has surfaced out because of these changes, and then we'll go to see what institutional mechanism under federal context can really take us forward in a harmonious way that Mr. Paudel showed us in a very nice board where everybody is going in the same direction. That's what exactly we need to do. Okay, so I will start from practice and new situation. Practice means before the new constitution defined various roles, right? So what it used to be is like the ABC, one single focal organization based in Kathmandu, and was also responsible for a lot of things like policy formulation, project program development, implementation, including subsidy administration, and also deals with external development partners with civil society, private sector. You think about it, everything is used to be coordinated through or done through APC. That used to be the case, right? Now with new 3 level of governments, which has defined roles, not in depth, but I would rather love to call it thinly defined. This is the new situation, where now APC has also moved to the new ministry. That's another situation that has been, now we are facing. For good or for bad, that only time will tell. And also APC's roles are gradually being updated, gradually being revised. If I am not wrong, recently the cabinet has provided some additional roles to the APC in line with new constitution. That is basically capacitating local government and also looking after climate fund, etc., and also what are that? Energy efficiency. 3 things. According to new situation, now local projects are to be implemented or under the jurisdiction of the local government. I am deliberately trying to avoid word power. Power brings the conflict, right? This is my power. Why are you trying to encroach? It's a jurisdiction basically provided by the law, by constitution. And the few things that is very much there is lack of clarity or concurrences, as Mr. Podel said, between the 3 level of governments. That is quite clear. And the relationship are also very thinly, very lightly defined. It's not properly fully defined. Next practice is when it comes to financial supports for renewable energy sector or alternative energy. APC and other various external development partners have created an organization or institution mechanism called Central Renewable Energy Fund. Supposed to be designated a single mechanism or basket fund mechanism, which is supposed to be at the arm's length from the APC for the whatever to avoid fiduciary risk and all those things. And at that, they also had, or the sector also had, NRREP, and that's a National Rural Renewable Energy Program framework. So again, a single window framework, again implemented by APC with active support from CREF. Now, in fact, CREF has so far been functioning as one of the wing, de facto one of the wing of the APC. Although whatever the position on paper, de facto I would say it's still a wing of the APC. But the new situation is now CREF still exists at federal level, but how it will fulfill its mandate at provincial and local government is not clear. We need to have clarity on that. And we also have to make sure how CREF will find it fit within the 4 different modalities of fund transfers. Like if you already know it, there are 4 modes of fund transfers from federal government to the lower governments, like equalization fund, equalization grant, matching grant, complementary grant, and special grants. And that needs to be properly defined. If CREF has to exist, and this needs to be properly defined. And recently, the NRREP is replaced by a new framework. It's National Small Scale Renewable Energy Framework, or just National Renewable Energy Framework, which is not yet in implementation in full-fledged way, which is slightly different from NRREP in the sense it's more flexible. But still, there are donors or external development partners who are in full support of this, and there are few donors also who are trying to shy away from the framework. So, what are the key pertaining issues? The issues or the need are like we need to ensure coherent policy at different levels of governance. We can't have one set of policy in, say, Parbat district and a different set of policies in the Magdi district. What will happen is, it will create a lot of confusion for private sector service providers and also for the people. Say, people in Parbat get a certain X amount of subsidy and the Magdi get less. So there will be some, asantushti, what you call dissatisfaction of the people. So we need to create some kind of coherent policy at different level of governments, including goals, objectives, or support mechanisms, quality assurance, regulatory mechanism, and all that. And on technical capacity will require extensive enhancement. Currently, as we have been hearing before me, the provincial and local governments lack capacities to implement whatever is expected from them to be delivered. Their capacity needs to be improved. A mechanism to deal with projects that expands beyond one jurisdiction. Say there is a project that expands to two local governments. How do we coordinate or manage that? Definitely would say provincial government should welcome that. If the projects are expanding from one province to another province, what will happen? Probably the federal level organization or institution will have to come forward and assist on that. So basically for a good efficient delivery of services on renewable energy or alternative energy, transparency and efficient governance would be the pre-requirement that will help everybody to vote a vote that will go on the same direction. The key is transparency and efficient governance. You can become very transparent, but if you are not efficient, that's not going to help. You need to be very efficient, cost effective, and you need to be transparent so that equitable allocation of resources can happen for financing as well as grants. Ensuring private sector investment, this will also help in ensuring private sector to come forward and invest in projects that will promote energy access objectives and also provide level playing field for renewable energy or alternative energy suppliers in the business. So these are some of the very key pertaining issues that immediately needs to be addressed. But then we also have opportunities now at this point of time because of new federal arrangement. What is immediately required is establishment of provincial RE development agencies, as I understand. As we have been hearing, there is a ministry which will look after energy, but we need to develop their capacity. Maybe through just a division or section, I don't think it's going to be good enough to take care of all the issues. Probably some kind of development agency similar to the one, not exactly, I'm not promoting or advocating to do the copy-paste, but we can look at how states in India doing renewable energy program in different states. Like they have renewable energy development agencies in each state, which is under one particular ministry, but also which within the state and which also get a lot of funding from the provincial central government's new and renewable energy ministry. So some kind of lesson can be learned from that practice also. So that is saying you need to have provincial level renewable energy agencies. The size will depend upon geography, people's requirement and all that. And support and coordinate local government efforts with help from federal agencies and other relevant agencies. What should one of the role for provincial development renewable energy development agencies should be to support and coordinate local government efforts. So that means what I'm trying to say is it's not the federal government agency like APC to go directly to local government to do capacity building help and all that in the long run. It has to be channeled through provincial agencies so that provincial agencies or provincial government also will see and realize their roles. So that will avoid conflict. Otherwise, what will happen is federal government will play with local government's authority and sideline the provincial government. That's not going to help to achieve the overall objective. And of course, develop local government capacities through provincial agencies for policy development, implementation of RE projects, and ensure policy coherency among neighboring local governments. And at the federal level, that was at the province level. At the federal level, we need to have organizations, something like APC, or we might even call it REPC, etc., depending upon the need. So the role for REPC or APC would be quite clear. So it's definitely not going to implement project at the local level. That thing is very much clear. But then there are things which was termed concurrence authority or jurisdiction that has to come to organizing this federal RE apex agency that I am just terming it here. So we can operate as a center of excellence, working for coherency in policy and practice to advance RE sector and also function as a repository or source of relevant information for concerned actors. For example, if a donor from particular country X comes to Nepal and wants to do something, where will it go? Should it go to Ministry of Finance? Will Ministry of Finance have time and expertise to deal with all the issues that they might raise? So we need an organization which will deal with that kind of things. So one particular local government wants to do a project and wants some technical supports. Where can it go? It will go to probably provinces, and if province is not capable enough, they can come to APC for that kind of information. And this kind of organization will have to play a key role in sector regulation by developing, implementing quality assurance standards, mechanisms, and continuously monitoring those issues. And should be facilitating agency for capacity development rather than doing capacity development itself. It should make use of other actors in the sector, like private sector or NGOs and whatever, to facilitate capacity development activities and facilitate resource mobilization and tap global opportunities, including climate fund, and coordinate provincial and government for RE projects, expanding beyond single that I have already said. And another important thing, which will probably not easily come into province and local government, is research and development and the supporting innovations. CRF issue, I have already dealt quite a bit of it. There are international experiences like ECOL in Bangladesh, IRERA in India, how they are financing renewable energy in their countries. We can study that and look at how innovatively we can finance renewable energy in Nepal, maybe result-based financing, challenge fund, viability gap, and all these kinds of different innovative ways to financing renewable energy will have to be looked at. Well then, where should we put CREF or renewable energy financing mechanism? Two modes of financing. One is subsidy and another is credit, right? And I think CREF should be focused mostly on the credit part, financing part, and it should be developed as a financing institution rather than subsidy administration institution. Subsidy administration should be given to local government or provincial government. But at the end, this is my last slide. A sector with federal constitution being implemented calls for some radical changes, thinking out of box rather than maintaining status quo. It's comfortable for everybody to maintain the status quo who are in the organizations, but I think we have to get out of that. Federal institutions should present itself as a facilitator rather than controller or regulator alone. And idea is, because this is a new way of doing business, what is necessary is devolve to evolve. That is a part. That's what I would say. And I will stop with that. And I'm extremely sorry I took a little more time. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Joshi, for chairing the session, and all the distinguished panelists and ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes when I'm Ranjan Shrestha from European Union delegation to Nepal. I worked there as a CDF program manager. Before joining the European Union, I worked in INGOs, NGOs, private sector, and also government of Nepal. So I have a bit diversified experience. So finally I landed to EU, and I've been there since last 16 years. So you can see the competency and the job market in Nepal, like where we need improvement, in fact. Sometimes when you are at the last, it's easy that most of the things what you wanted to say is said by other speakers. And sometimes also it is difficult what you will have to speak now, because most of the things I have not already discussed. So anyways, like I completely agree the views presented by Professor Joshi, that there's a lack of clarity and among the people, and also they are translating as per their convenience. So this SDG, in line with the SDG 2020 agenda, yes, it's very challenging, and it's a global agenda for which EU has been putting its effort to respond to this challenge in line with achieving the goal within 2020. So in the same line, the EU is much more giving importance to sustainable energy, specifically goal number 7, that ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, modern energy services. And it is one of the key drivers for the development, for work, for education, infrastructure, industrial activities that would generate opportunity for the income and reduce ultimately the poverty. So we have number of thematic instruments that decouples economic activities from the environmental degradation by promoting renewable energy sources, energy efficiency, resource efficiency, cleaner production, and other instruments to promote climate change mitigation, green economy, ultimately contributing to economic prosperity and poverty reduction. So coming to today's agenda of this plenary, do we need more institutions to promote renewable energy in the federal context? So that is a big question itself, and I think, in my opinion, we do not need, because we have already plenty of institutions already there. For example, in terms of EU's experience, we have worked very closely with the ABC. We have established community energy service providers and district energy environment climate change coordination committee, village energy environment climate change coordination committee. So what will happen to these communities? Whether the local institutions or provincial or central, are they going to take the ownership or not? So whatever we have done so far, it goes on waste, or are we taking some lesson learned from this point? So I think in this federal council, every time we go to the forums, everything is discussed based on the federalism. So do we have to start from the zero? And also this is also a question to all the participants: do we have to start from the zero, or we can already start from what has been done already? So federalism has, of course, it has set the political boundaries, but people are same, issues are same, and the vulnerability is same, I guess. So do we need new things in the change political context only? So I think big challenge is still the implementation. Whether you have a central, provincial, or local. For example, there will be a boundary of the rivers, forests, or roads about the two provinces. So whether are we going to have two policies in two provinces? So this is, I think, the big challenge. Then I think I completely agree with Mr. Amartya that we need a good governance first. How to develop good governance in the federal context, because bodies were there. In the beginning also, they were not functioning. Yes, Navaraj said, they have been given more power. Even more power, if you do not have a good governance, then that is not going to work. So on the opening session, Mr. Gyanendra Lal Pradhan, he's a power sector, hydropower sector developer. He shared that it took 11 years for him to take the generation license for 100 megawatt hydropower. And he has to hit his heads in 32 departments. So he was quite exhausted, and that is not happen. He has also given the example of Ethiopia, where these things can be done in 6 months. So in the federal context also, if we do the same, then the things will improve with the more authority at the local level. So we have that observed that the absorption capacity is very less, because implementation is very slow. Again, if we face the same implementation problem, then things might not change, and we still will have to face the similar problems. So basically, we need to see the governance system, how to execute the powers. Another challenge is how to mobilize some financial and technical resources, because this is not only from the local or central government. There are a lot of resources from various donors, INGOs, NGOs, international partners, philanthropic donors. So that is also one challenge. And in this short time, so just as a way forward, what I see is, based on this, SDG challenge, probably you all heard that we have done MDG, we have implemented MDG, and comparatively we have done better in MDG. So lesson learned from MDG should be taken forward. If there are any implementation hurdles, so that has to be taken on board to integrate achieving SDG goals, which is again highlighted by Mr. Amate. So it's very easy for me to just to reiterate what he said. So more specifically, there is a need to build the capacity of the institution at all levels for efficient planning, implementation, monitoring, and delivery, and the delivery of the services. And the three pillars of the SDG, economic, social, and the environmental aspect, should not be examined in isolation, because this is why we also need an integrated approach in the federal context. Another is effective coordination mechanism. Normally we have seen lack of coordination among the inter-ministries departments, so this should not happen in the federal context. There has to be proper coordination among all three levels, and there needs to be a stakeholders consultation prior to the implementation. So there we need to ensure the participation of all the stakeholders, because they play a key role in translating the action to the reality. And another is knowledge platform, which we gain from the international, local, and regional experience. When we or people go outside country like US, America, Japan, and we always share, okay, this is happening there, let's do it here. What we miss the point is we do not see our local context. There are a lot of cases which is implementing in outside Nepal but not happening in Nepal. So we do not see the local context, culture, like for generating biogas from the figure. That is not welcome in rural areas. So how to integrate these kinds of, how to customize the international experience or regional experience in our local context. So that is, I think, somewhere we also miss that point. This is why something is working outside and it's not working in Nepal. I think there also we need to be the, in this federalism we need to give attention. Then another is, before I just wish to highlight that we need to see the ground reality, what is happening. Normally when we go out, we ourselves, suppose I go to one country, I share to other colleagues, friends, this is there, this is not in happening, but I do not see myself what I am doing. When I come to Nepal, I do not follow the principles what I follow outside the country. So when I eat a chocolate, if I am outside, we keep in the pocket, we don't throw. But when we come to Nepal, we throw on the street, everywhere we go. So this behavior we need to see, and we need to improve ourselves in this new federal context. I just wish to borrow our Secretary Minister of Forest and Environment, what he said on the 25th of October in our one of the consultation meeting. What he said was, good things are me, bad things are others. So we want others to do for our problem. So this is what we, in a new federal context, we need to see, we have to do, I have to do. If we, rather than pointing one finger to others, let's not point our four fingers towards us. So this is something very important that I have grasped what he said in the, and finally, capacity building is a huge thing at the moment. Yes, of course, we need a capacity in the new federal context, and the EU is working to support 30 million euro for this capacity development of all three levels. And just to highlight that this capacity building has never stopped since I joined the European Union delegation. Since last 16 years, there is not even a single project where we do not have a capacity strengthening and the international experience. The thing is, that does not remain itself when we build the capacity. So in the federal context, what is necessary is when we build the capacity of the particular staff or institution, that has to be there, and it has to be transmitted from one to another. And the person who has already built the capacity, and he needs to be promoted and given opportunity so that he goes to the upper level and he trains the his fellow colleagues, so that we also use the effective resource mobilizers. And finally, I think we need to go on a stepwise approach. In in terms of renewable energy programs. So first, we cannot do everything at a time. When we talk about this smart city, people are talking about telecommunication, transport, tram, mass transit system, railway. Is it possible in Kathmandu? So in a way, first we need to see whether we would like to see household, private sectors, government offices, communities. We identify like that, some areas, then we set the target, okay, how many percentage by this year? Okay, whether we do the transportation, electricity at the household, community system. So this is the second and third step. Then once we do the successful pilot, then it is necessary that the federal government to own it, make a ownership, then replicate and share the lesson. That's why if we could follow these approaches, then probably in a federalization, this renewable energy sector might be speed up in contributing to the SDG goals. So this is what briefly I have gathered from my experience and some learnings listening in this panel session. We might have opportunity to discuss in the floor discussion. Thank you very much.
My understanding is very simple. We do not want to implement what we could implement. My example is that 600 megawatt solar installed at the rooftop, that is Harek Ghar Urja Ghar, or every house, energy house. That was just mentioned in the white paper of the Ministry of Energy and Water Resources and Irrigation. It was mentioned, but where is the implementation? It does not cost 180 billion of investment that is distributed to the soldier of every household on us. Government doesn't have to pay single. Only the institutional mechanism has to be there to interconnect 1 kilowatt of photovoltaic to the grid. That technically is not that problem. Taking only consideration of 600,000 households on rooftop in Kathmandu Valley, that produce 600 megawatt, which is equivalent to the energy that every day we are importing from India per day in megawatt hour basis. That's why in your federal, provincial and local governments, how many such households are there? We could be enough independent from this energy. So we don't have to have any funding from the donors also. They are just assigned out. We can have their own on our own. So why? After how many times we have implemented this Retrud? 4 times already. Last time in March 2018, we have also ICTR. We mentioned it. Even though the implementation, this is going to be the 10 years of energy.
It is the same, if you come to think about it, it is the same thing with the center also. It's a policy thing they prepared, it's a regulations they prepared, and provincial government. So there would be a duplications of the work. And what about if certain donors wants to come to the municipality directly, because municipality is allowed to negotiate with the donors. So it does not have to go to the kind of province. So those are the kind of things happening now. That was one observation, and why does it happen and what could be done. And another one is very important thing that I want to raise is, we try to see this renewable energy in federal context. Let's leave apart the hydropower because it has provincial kind of jurisdictions between different provinces, because it has upstream, downstream, and it connects many provinces. But the point is, we really need to sort of disaggregate the form of renewable energy that could be independently governed by the let's say municipalities or Gram Palika. For example,
and we should be realistic and we have to inform people correctly. That's one thing. My question to Dr. Shrestha is again, EU is implementing climate change and coordination committees at the district level, village level, and national level, everywhere. My question is that our priority to tackle the climate change issue in Nepal, or we have other better priority that you could support to the country like Nepal?
Thank you, Mr. Bandari. We take 2 more questions.
here about the interjurisdictional spillover. The political boundary and the functional catchment area is not the same. It goes beyond the boundary of local government, maybe the boundary of provincial government. In that case, what sort of arrangement we are going to implement? I think we need to be clear on that. For that reason, I suggested for this forum that I think we can develop, some sort of joint service arrangement framework. So we have to work on that. That's what I suggested. From that perspective, what I can say, this federalism as a system, this is not our ends. This is a means for better government. This is a means for better delivery. This is a means for accountable government. This is a means for efficient government. It is a means for deliberative government. So that's why, as a means, federalism as a means, we need to talk about the nitty-gritty of all the governance systems, mechanisms, or process, whatever you say. So from that perspective, previously there was only one governing unit. It was Simhadrabad. Why I told only one governing unit? Because the law were enacted only from Simhadrabad. The prioritization, the planning, the budgeting, the revenue collection, implementing, asking the questions, answering the questions, all these things were done by the Simhadrabad. And there were different delivery units all over the country. And they were accountable to the Simhadrabad governing unit. They were only delivery unit. But right now, the federalism, changed the whole scenario of the governance. There are 761 governing units. This is the change of what the federalism did. So from that perspective, I think we need to be clear about the role of different level of the government. From that perspective, if there is a concurrency down to the local level, we have Schedule 9. I've gone through the constitution all over the world. Those countries who are adopting federal system, they don't have this kind of schedule, down to the local level. The concurring list is, between federal and province, or province and local. They don't have, concurring list, down to the local level. So that sort of concurrency is there. So we need to be clear, actually, what's the role they have to perform. From that perspective, we have to set the standard, and the federal government would be better to set the national standard, minimum standard, or basic standard, whatever you say. So we'll implement that. Whether the local governments or provincial government they are implementing or not. So provincial government can encourage the local government to implement the national standard, to implement the basic standard, to implement the minimum standard. So provincial government can facilitate, can encourage, monitor, support, whatever you say. So from that perspective, I think the role of the provincial government will be much more important. Even for the fiscal transfer, Amartya sir was saying that why not transfer through the province? But I have a different opinion of that, because this is not the hierarchical system. You have to go through the province. You can't go direct to the local government. This is not mentioned in the constitution. They are independent. They are constitutionally empowered, constitutionally federalized. They have every right to enact the law related to their duties defined in the schedule. So what would be the backstopping function? What would be the support function? What would be the back office function? What would be the middle office function? We can discuss on that. So to implement the national policy, national regulatory framework, national monitoring framework, national vision, national plan, national destination, I think the provincial government can support in every respect to the local government. This is what I suggest. That's all. Thank you.
Actually, thank you, Master Sir, for your question. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on that. Why this rooftop solar is not moving? That was your question. Of course, I mean, it's a responsibility within my ministry, not APC alone. But what has happened recently, I just wanted to share a few words. Recently, we organized a meeting with our ministry, NEA, DUED, and APC, and not only rooftop systems, but also micro mini hydro, solar mini grids, all those systems which are now in the vicinity of the grid, they can be connected. And we have agreed to move ahead with preparing required technical standards. One, this grid connected solar PV guideline has already been formed, finalize that. And whatever other technical documents are required, we prepare and we move ahead with that. So things are moving, but they are taking time. They are moving a bit slower pace. But what I can share is, of course, this is a kind of new area. So far, in our context, in Nepal context, it's like when we talk about energy, it's only hydropower. Very recently, in the recent past 1 week now, we have realized that we need to go into energy mix. We need to promote solar, micro, mini hydro, or wind, or other small scale renewables. So those sort of things are already there. And then if you see the white paper clearly mentions 5 to 10% of the total energy mix can come from the small scale renewables. So those sort of things are there and they are moving. But I agree with you that it's moving slow. One more thing I just wanted to share, although there was no question, as I stopped right at the time earlier. Of course, this is a federal context, is a new thing. It's a completely new dynamics, as Balavan sir was just mentioning. Earlier, it was accountability was centralized, but now accountability itself is also with the 761 governments. But when we talk about our experience in institutionalizing the energy governance at the local government, we already have a track record on that. Earlier, when APC started working with the districts, we started with few and we gradually covered all districts, and at the district level, we set up a separate section to deal with the energy, environment and climate change. Of course, in the new context, the district has a very limited role. So if we can transfer that institutional memory to the local governments in a similar fashion, definitely it can work, but it might take some time. So that is a our own experience that we have, but we do have to learn from others' experience also. For example, Aman sir was mentioning about India experience. We might not, go outright with setting up a provincial level renewable energy agencies, but a kind of provincial level hub that can be a joint service arrangement similar to what Balavan sir was mentioning between the province and the federal government, and that really helps with the local government in moving ahead with energy activity. So this is something we can start as a way forward, and this will really help to gradually institutionalize the RE governance at the provincial and local level.
Thank you, Mr. Dhakkal. Now,
Thank you. May I know your good name, please? I didn't get you.
Ramchandra Bandar.
Okay. I think maybe I did not deliver properly, or you did not got it properly, because I did not criticize the government, neither anybody. I just said, before doing something or replicate from international or regional experience, we need to see the local context and culture as well, so that it remains sustainable in the federal context. That was my deliberation. But I didn't criticize that it is not. I said, if something is working outside others, why it is not working in our case? That was just a reference. But I never and I did not criticize anyone. That's my clarification. And second thing is, you asked me to point out where it is not working. So may I request you to go to the Tegu transfer station and see the energy pin. We have established the energy pin that is basically to translate the waste to energy. Please go and have a look. And also please visit Lalitpur municipalities. We have installed number of biogas plants and biodigesters. So the projects are over in only 2017 December. And also you can speak to Mr. Navraj Dhakkal about renewable energy project, which was grant support of 15 million euro from the EU. We have installed 21 solar home systems and thermal system 21 districts of hilly and mountains regions of Nepal. So I just give reference, but it is not a criticism. So what I wanted to say, these all are proven technologies, evidence-based. So they were working very fine until the projects were there after 1 year. So a number of places they are not functioning. So is it a failure of the technology, or it is a governance system of its ownership? So this is why whatever the development partners have done, and because sometimes it might not be successful in the pilot itself, so that is not it. But when you have proven functioning system, that has to be replicated. There has to be someone to take the ownership. But I did not, mean to, it's a criticism, but if we do that in a federal context, then that will be a difference that we could observe. Otherwise, what will be the difference between the centralized system and the decentralized federal context? So in order to, assure quality services and the effective service delivery mechanism, sustainability, what we said, I think that has to be the key areas, these local bodies needs to focus. I think many of you agree with what I have said. Then regarding our cooperation,
can we make it short?
Sure. Regarding our cooperation, like basically we work on a multi-indicative annual program that is for 2014 to 2020, and the three sectors are education, rural development, and the governance decentralization. And these energy, climate change, these all are cross-cutting issues. So they are integrated within the rural development program. Apart from that, we have a number of thematic instruments for climate change, energy issues, and also local call for proposals to work with the local authorities and the civil societies, CSOs. Thank you. We can discuss during lunch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just 1 minute for Mr. Devkota and 1 minute for Matthew.
Thank you so much. The only one point that I would like to make is that the federalism, the concept itself that we are practicing in the country now is based on the principle of subsidiarity. So this means we should understand the fact that what the lowest tier of government can do should not be done by the upper tiers of the government. So if we understand and follow this principle, a lot of things will be simplified. That's one thing I would like to mention. And in response to the gentleman from the engineering college, that you echoed much what I delivered in my previous, deliberation, that the energy sector, the renewable energy should not be taken as the one sector particularly, rather than it has to be taken as the cross-cutting issue. That's why I said in the master plan or the local plan of the municipality or the whichever tier of the government, even the province government, if we can incorporate it right from the beginning, then only it can be sustained. Otherwise, it will remain as just a project, and we can't guarantee its, continuation or sustainability. Thank you, sir.
Matthew, 1 minute.
Sure. Because there's no direct question from me, but I thought I must bring this issue to the forum. What's already probably taking shape, efforts are being made, which is necessary to avoid contradiction, confusions, and all that, is to have some kind of legislative arrangement at different level of government. Like maybe at the federal level, we need the Renewable Energy Act, which is not there. Of course, it's easier said than done in the country where we have been trying to update or review Electricity Act for past 18 years, and it's not done yet. And I hope the things are different now and will happen very soon. Maybe Renewable Energy Act at federal level, and probably then APC or REPC, whatever is the name, can help the provincial government and local government to by providing model acts for them, and then of course, as Navraj said in his earlier presentation also, they can modify based on their local needs and thank you.
Thank you. One simple suggestion. The change in terms of
cells are not isolated like maybe here. They're interconnected to each other. This could be high voltage cells, this could be low voltage cells. They're interconnected. And this is one possibility to manage in future maybe this huge amount of electricity we need and private investment and so on. So, hope I wasn't too long. Just some points, maybe to think about or for the discussion later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew.
Dear Chairperson, distinguished guests in the dais, and the respected participants in the floor. I am representing private sector working in the field of renewable energy technology. Renewable Energy Confederation of Nepal, RECON. RECON is the umbrella organization of associations, private sector associations, who are working in the field of renewable energy in the remote area and the urban, very small scale. In past 30 years, around 30 years, government support and some donor support in this field for providing subsidy, and now the situation has been changed. The federal government, local government, three types of government are here, and all the authority for the implementation of renewable energy is going to in the local government, which are 753 now, and it is the difficult situation how we can deliver the renewable energy technology in the remote area. That's why this forum has been created for providing the quick service to the real need, not only for supply of the renewable energy technology. We want to invest, or we want to support for the creation of the employment in the rural and remote area in the practical way by utilizing maximum utilization of the available renewable energy in the particular area, and the utilization of the locally available materials and locally available products. We want to promote that field, and for the protection of the climate change, global warming, we want to cooperate and we want to coordinate with the relevant stakeholder who want to provide the donation support. We report of Nepal Electricity Authority that around 2,000 megawatt are under construction. They will be commissioned by within 2-3 years, and 456 megawatt. Upper Tanakosi, I think, is at the December 2019. I mean, it's coming up, and this is a picking run of the river. And we saw the interview of Mr. Kurman Gising, the MD of Nepal Electricity Authority, 2 days ago, that this, because of picking run of the river, we can have electricity even in peak times, right? So we can cater to the energy demand for cooking by electricity. So that was the thing we heard in the paper. So the government is planned as well, and program in 2018 in the parliament. Emphasis will be given to the development and expansion of hydropower and other renewable energy to provide clean energy for all Nepali households. And of course, the government has come out and said that the decade 2018 to 2028 will be as the energy decade. So all these things are very nice, very optimistic, and very way forward. Renewable energy forward. All these things are there. But what are happening actually? When you talk about, so this is also another thing, is in the white paper we understand that
one house, one energy house. It's one of the major slogans. One house, one electric cook stove. It's very nice, wonderful. These slogans will be the slogans if concrete steps are not taken in time. So in the supply side, things are moving very okay, I think. But in reality, on demand side, things are moving very, very slowly. It's not happening at all. So I think one of the things is Nepal is an endorsee of this Paris Accord 2015 in COP21. That one of the major resolution of this accord is discouraging sales of fossil fuels and massive promotion of renewable energy for meeting energy demands. So this is the major thing, this is resolution. So all the developed as well as developing country have to focus on it, and there is no doubt about it. And we have to see whether the government of Nepal is paying attention on these things. Just 2 days ago, in the inaugural session, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Yuvraj Khatimura, said that we are discouraging non-renewable energy in Nepal. But in reality, what's happening? So those issues I just want to put before you. Some of them. Let's see, petroleum, several fuels. We used to cook on kerosene. We used to cook on LPG. We used to cook on electricity. And in rural areas, we used to cook on biogas as well as in firewood. The urban area firewood is very, very difficult to find. So what you find is, in 2000, I'm doing it for more than 2 decades. For a household of 5 people in an urban area, including the capital cost of the cooking stoves, the monthly spending is required in kerosene stove 270 rupees per month for a household required. Whereas LPG in 2000 it was 430. If you cook on electric hot plate, it was 680 rupees. So this is talking about what the urban area. Now see in 2017, now I put this 2018, so this is the 18 figure. So if kerosene stove is 1,240 rupees per month, LPG stove 1,084, in electric hot plate 1,100. So if you cook on the current subsidy in LPG is 30%. There is every cylinder you are using, you have 400 rupees subsidy. 400 rupees. So if you economic cost, if you see, it will cost you 1,400 rupees per month. So if you see that thing, if you cook on induction cooktops, it is 990. That means cooking on electricity is 40% cheaper than cooking on LPG. So this is the very this anomaly in the government saying and doing. When you talk about public policy, the public policy is what? Any activity of the government that concerns the general public. So they say something and the policy of the government is different. They are providing subsidy to LPG import. Every cylinder, 400 rupees. And that comes around 13 billion a year. Can you imagine 13 billions of rupees a year goes on subsidizing LPG? You can construct 60 megawatt every year with that subsidy. And are we promoting green economy or are we promoting fossil fuels? So that's a big question. I think there are no people from the government, concerned agencies. This is the real fact. So this is another chart which I usually show in all my presentation. So see, in 2004, our expenditure for import of petroleum products was only 24% of our export earning. How much we export? Commodities. That is 24% of that goes for importing petroleum products. Now see, in 2018, we spent 182%. That means for importing petroleum products, our export is not sufficient. We are importing twice our export earning. So this is not sustainable. So green economy, we talk about sustainable development is not sustainable. And Nepal, that's why I was a little bit surprised when 2 days ago the Ministry of Finance said that we are not encouraging non-renewable energy. We are doing that thing, providing all this kind of subsidies. Why not promote electricity? And there are some reasons that I want to show. So some issues I just want to talk about while talking about green economy. We can develop green economy in the country. Let's see the another the chart, which see the duties on petroleum products between Nepal and India. The red one is India's. In petrol, they have 52% taxes on petroleum products, whereas Nepal has 37%. In diesel, 45%. Nepal, 24%. What does it mean? Nepal's tax structure is half of India's. And that's why there is a big price difference between the domestic and diesel 5 times their tax rate. Petroleum twice. What Nepal did? Nepal did nothing. When the prices in the international market for crude oil went down, India, because of COP21, Paris Accord, discouraged sales of petroleum products. So they increased the taxes in the right moment when the international market price went down. They increased the price, they increased the tax rate. Whereas Nepal remains slipping. Right? So that's why there is a wide disparity. I don't want to talk about this. So this is the wide disparity. So the present prices, if you see, Nepal and India, there is a difference of around more than 20%. Can you imagine? Due to this reason, around 10 to 12% diesel is going back to India. I went 2-3 months ago to Biratnagar. The depot chief, I met the depot chief there, and he said 500 trucks come from India to Nepal every day from Jogbal. So they have 300-liter service tank. They come empty and they fill it up Nepal and they go back to India. Right? Because you see there is a 20% difference in pricing. So how much we are giving? There is 10 rupees subsidy in diesel right now. Any liter sold going back to India, we are giving how much? 10 rupees. So that comes around 2 billion of rupees going to India. So this is the big issue which is there. And we talk about green economy and the country is doing nothing. Right? We're talking nicely before the thing. This thing I met the Prime Minister last year in September. I talked with the Minister of Finance. I talked with the Revenue Minister. I talked with the Chief Secretary. And we had a meeting on 11 September 2017 at the Prime Minister's office. I disclosed all these things. You have a tax structure difference between Nepal and India. You have to immediately review the tax structure. I gave the concept paper and all this So why disparity between price of petrol products in Nepal? And because of these huge quantities going.
Electricity during the off-peak hour is always cheaper than the electricity during the peak hour. So what I would suggest is electricity during the off-peak hour from 9 o'clock in the night to 6 o'clock in the morning should be reduced. The rate should be reduced so that all the charging of the electric vehicles, all the electric vehicles can charge during the off-peak hour, and then they also make a big profit. And the Nepal Electricity Authority also is not under big pressure because of the electric vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In the previous time, we used to have electric bus roaming around in Kathmandu. So now we don't have any of those sort of things, and almost every vehicle in Kathmandu is based on fossil fuel. So still we can mitigate that fossil fuel consumption in Kathmandu Valley and reintroduce the electric vehicle while talking about the renewable energy. So how can we promote that, and how can we come up with those sources? That's the question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, of paddy in the last 60 years, you can see, in the last 60 years, the salary of a doctor or the salary of an engineer must have increased by X factor. But when you talk about the paddy price, you talk about the sugarcane price, they're going to die because there is no insurance for that farmer. There is no health benefit for that farmer. There is no education benefit for that farmer. So why is that farmer working in the field? So you have to couple water and energy. Water and irrigation. So I would summarize 6 key life cycle success factors, and the panelists can discuss on that. One is optimum solution. It has to be optimized. Whether we talk about solar, whether we talk about biofuel for transportation, that's one. The second one is it has to be commercially viable, commercially benefit. See, the fight is not between private and public. They have a role to play. And for a developing or for a least developed country like Nepal, the public sector, the government has to play a big role. It's not that we don't need private sector. In the energy sector, it's clear. 50% of the actual, whatever 1,000 megawatt of electricity that we generate are from the private. And for the next 2 years, we talk about 2,000, there is private contribution. So, but still, whether it's done by the government or by the private, it has to be beneficial. It has to be commercially beneficial. We talked about subsidy. Subsidy cannot work. We talked about the example of subsidy. In cooking gas, 400 rupees, there is a subsidy. Second, the third is it has to be best in the class. It's not that we get the junk from China. It has to be the best in the class, in that category. That's number 3. Fourth, it's a question of partnership. So you have to have the right partner. It could be a third partner. It has to be a right partnership, either between the public and private, or between education or industry. So the fourth one is the right partner. The fifth one, which was raised by entrepreneurs, which was raised by academia, is yes, a government has to have a role. There has to be a sustainable governance rules legislation. Whether it's about power purchase tariff, whether it's about how much, at what rate do you purchase. It's not just solar. We talk about bio, we talk about wind. And Kaushalji just explained that the wind part came into picture just recently. So the last one, which is the most important one, I think, is we have to, if you look at the success factor, we have to look at sustainability and longevity. Just to see, when I look at the scenario of India, India is a worst example. I would say worse. It's just recently, after Modi came into power, he said that by around 2022, we will have 175 gigawatt from renewable energy. Out of that 175, he said 100,000 megawatt, 100 gigawatt would be from solar. As of today, started in 2014, 2018, India was able to achieve around 50 gigawatt, around half. Whether they would be able, this is from solar. 75 from other renewable source, it is very difficult. It is very, very difficult. Now if you look at India, I was looking at the data of India, and you see, let's take solar. Now, India is blessed with about, I was looking at some data, 3,000 hours of sunshine every year. 3,000 hours, which is equivalent to around 5,000 trillion gigawatt hour of energy. A lot, a lot. Now, if you look at what India is, we talked about value addition. We talked about local content. India at present, existing, they have 1590 megawatt of solar cell and 562 megawatt of solar module, which is just 20% of their total requirement. Imagine, all the rest are imported from China. So, it is not a good example. Whether it's to do with legislation, whether it's to do with, we don't want to hear the word subsidy, but India is a worst example of investment or promoting these sort of renewable energy. If you look at the manpower also, around, it's not, hydropower is not a good investment of promoting employment. And it's the same with...
And even if there is energy banking, I think energy banking will be only at the icing at the top. It will not be possible, pragmatic, practical, to expect that we can export all of our surplus to India and then try to get it back in the winter. I'm a little bit cynical about that. So the excess energy, yes, we can give it a very low tariff in wet season, but in dry season, is unit of energy costs 8 rupees 40 paisa, whether it's night or morning or afternoon. So dry season, maybe the same tariff as it now can be done. But who can do it? When can we do it? The NERC, Nepal Electricity Regulatory Commission, the act has been passed, and the commission is under process of being constituted, and it is enabled by act to decide on that. And I was also there drafting discussions and regulations and all that of the NERC. And in my opinion, it has a much higher autonomy than the present or the erstwhile tariff commission. It has much more autonomy, but still cannot expect full autonomy. The minister of they will try to have his weight on the tariff, but we can expect a rational tariff. When there is, mixing of the decision maker, regulator, and the utility, then it also becomes difficult to have a rational tariff. So the tariff commission is afraid to give a rational tariff, even if it knows that their tariff has to go up because of the costs. It's afraid. So you have to separate these. That's where we can talk about unbundling. Unbundling of not NEA. We have been discussing this when I was in MCC and before also, that the real unbundling required is the regulation parts to be separate from the government, and the NERC is, I think, going to solve it. The rest on NEA is doing its job. Fine if the regulation and tariff can be properly given. So yes, 4% tariff for electric vehicles. Mr. Pradeep Kumar, question was, wheeling charge possible for ungenerated or excess, is again the excess energy. There is a policy in the electricity policy also of about wheeling charge. NESS is going to, it's open to wheeling charge, it's open to open access, but who will, let's say, well, the cat, who will decide what is going to be the right tariff wheeling charge? And who?
These things here, and I was thinking on Austria, and we are a developed country, and question was, what can hydropower storage or storage power do, hydropower in terms of energy mix? I'm coming from the technology side, I'm a mechanical engineer dealing with hydropower, and when it comes always to the question solar, wind, water, it's technology thinking the question of energy density. So if you are installing water, and we are talking of a load factor, what we call load factor. This is a factor hours running the machines through the annual hours. So the load factor in water is approximately 70%. So our machines are running nearly 3/4 years. In terms of solar, it's in my country the load factor about 10%. And in wind about 20%. So if you are thinking on, okay, I will install, instead of hydropower, I will install wind, is always the question, also in our country, then you have to say, okay, you can do that, but you need much more land. If you do on solar, you need even more, yeah, even more. And this is, maybe some technologies are up to date now. The thing is, we are also in this Paris agreement, and we are thinking Austria to green, to ban these fossil fuels. And just in the last 2 months, we were discussing how much electricity will be needed if we really put everything on electricity. And there was one thing before: is the future really electric? Yeah? Just to give you an idea, we are using 73 terawatt hours in Austria per year. This is electricity production. 60%, 40 terawatt hours comes from hydro. So, we did a study now, what would be if we put all our vehicles on electricity? We are running 4 million cars in Austria, bigger cars. So we had to produce another 15 terawatt hours. Households, if we do, would be, okay, another 10. But the industry, for the industry we would need, just to bring the industry about 50 to 60 terawatt hours. So this means a doubling of our demand. If we would put everything on electricity, and we are not there anymore to say the future will be electric. Yeah? We have another problem. Another problem is storage, seasonal storage. If you have everything on electric, the sun is shining in summer, not in winter. Wind also. So you have to put storage there, huge storage amount. So we're talking about storing 50 terawatt hours. And I was thinking, okay, maybe pump storage could do that, or storage in our terms. So then I was thinking on the reservoirs we have, and I came up with maybe we can store 6 terawatt hours. So it's a question how to store these huge amounts of energy needed. This is the future what we have and what we are discussing. And if you're thinking on okay, you're driving electrical car, you can drive 400 kilometers with a Tesla. Yeah? But a Tesla has 95 kilowatt battery. So how to charge this? With a rooftop solar. It's another question. There are technologies in Europe available, so-called superchargers, to charge a car with 90 kilowatt in 10 minutes, but you need 320 kilowatt. So you need a big line to charge your car. I mean, we have these grids, or we think we have, but nobody knows really what will happen. And I know from battery companies, their research in batteries, just to have an idea, I was just wondering, They were researching for the electromobility a battery with 600 kilowatts. Yeah? 600 kilowatts for 30 seconds. Just to have Formula 1 car, nearly. Yeah? So, car industry, they didn't restrict themselves, so they will go forward. The demand will, nobody knows what kind of demand will come. Storage is a big issue afterwards. If everybody has electricity, and then electricity goes up, or you dream the future. So you have to really think on this, not only on how much solar or wind should be installed. We have, this was the demand side. On the supply side, we were thinking how much renewable power we have. We don't have it.
Banking, right? And I think regarding this thing, even with Hitler and Saki, I agree with one point and disagree with the other. Regarding energy banking, yes. In wet season, we want to sell to India. In dry season, we want to have electricity from India, right? So, as he says, it's a very difficult issue. It's very difficult, right? So, since they have the energy market, open energy market, right? So we sell it in the wet season, and they will buy that when we are needing it. In the dry season, they will give at the same price. It's a difficult thing. It has to be looked in a different way. So it's not so easy. Energy banking, one thing. The other thing, what he said, LPG, electricity cannot substitute LPG because cooking is mostly in peak time. So as Bidamanji is saying, you have the different tariff, right? The optic.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I said the focus should be in transport, not in.
No, because tell you one thing, Nepal's energy demand in transport is 7% only. In cooking, 60% of total energy goes. Right? Nepal's primary energy consumption in transport is 7%. In cooking is 60%. Which needs to much more emphasis. That's cooking. We have to look into cooking. So I told you, 20 billion. Any is standing still, 20 billion, which is economically efficient to be substituted by electricity, and which technically also is feasible. So that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Saying, son, life is like riding a bicycle. To move forward, you have to keep your balance, you have to move forward. To keep your balance, you have to move forward. The same thing in this discussion about transportation, discussion about cooking. Like I mentioned, by 2040, the passenger mobility demand, not in Nepal, I'm talking about the world passenger mobility demand would increase from 40% to 70%. Imagine. So imagine the problem of mobility here. So in Nepal, yes, it could be 7%. But if you talk about the global mobility, passenger mobility, it will increase by 40 to 70%. Okay? So this is a question of balance. It's the same thing, the question of balance in life. Okay? Again, once again, I would like to thank the panelists, and I would like to thank the audience for their time, for the patient listening. I think there is some...
Smriti Gupta, Pratik Raj Khadka, Shruti Kumari, Arvind Maharjan, and Ashang Rai.
And as has been said that we are behind schedule. So each presenter will be given only 10 minutes. And this session is mainly on solar technologies. So, and solar has a big scope. Whatever we have heard today about renewable energy, the major contribution is by solar, whether it is India or Germany or anywhere else. So we should know more about solar energy, what is going on in the world. This is one
storage period have been recorded as most critical. Manifestation of the substrate also cannot be fully checked. Mohalla of Darbhanga during 2012 brought to the laboratory for further studies. In this paper, appropriate solar drives of substrate, second total number of sample, and third one is total number of infected sample, fourth percentage of percentage of infected sample, and next one is total number of fresh sample, and last one is percentage of fresh sample. Next. The sample identified fresh in physical examination were subjected to culture by the same method, blotter technique and solid medium technique. This revealed that about 26.62% of the fresh samples were also infected with various strains of toxic fungi, which is represented in the second table. Identification with this fungi revealed that Aspergillus group dominated all the substrate except rice, mustard, and flat rice. Magna on the basis of percentage of death at different dose time intervals. Next. Preventive measures. Solar drying is one of the most prevailing methods of food preservation where the moisture is removed, preventing the growth of microorganisms that cause food damage. This method helps.
So there are many projects going on, and now objective is appropriate technology. Now it is not a question of the technological aspect, it is a question of appropriate technology. So the work is still going on, and we are trying to make it at industrial level. It is so far missing.
Work on post-harvest technology has done.
And reduction of the waterborne diseases and development of safe water source is a major public health goal of developing countries. Buying and adopting modern commercial filters can be costlier and complex and may or may not require the technicians and the electricity. So this design here comes with the use of renewable source of energy that uses solar thermal energy direct from the sun for filtration or boiling and all. This is the design overview, simple, where the circuit diagrams of the made with the pre-available collector, so as the useful heat transfer and the maximum from the useful heat transfer, the maximum flow rate was obtained, and the slow sand filter was as designed with cost-efficient materials. Whatever be the flow rate of the filter, the collector's flow rate was in between the flow rate of the filter, so as the flow rate of the collector was determined to be the flow rate of the system. And this is what
the cost analysis of this.
Say that if different models could.
For drinking water, we use 300 or to 500 ppb. But how do you justify or qualify the quality of water for drinking?
For this ongoing work, we have for our particular work, we have estimated that to maintain the water quality for the E. coli and total coliform count for our results. As per the WHO,
I think this is for
temperature community solar dryer for oily and hard edible produces. There are several renewable energy applications which are cost effective and requires low level of technology intervention. These have potential to change human life. I am going to present one of my work on solar drying modified for application in rural and remote area. Next. Hot and arid region. However, this region also a rich source of biodiversity plays an important role in
you continue, please.
Aquaculture and horticulture are seasonal. Usually, prices plunges into season, scales new heights. Otherwise, in season, the product and consumed locally or sent in nearest market. In off season, the product. The people sitting ideal beside they face natural hazards which creates economic stress. In off season, people do not take advantage of seasonal products, that horticulture product. This is open sun drying being practiced in is however it is slow and exposes this materials method.
Elsewhere also. many friends in US and Canada who are working and their life has gone in developing and working on post-harvest technologies, and they have written books on solar drying also. It's not so simple. Material first is to be identified, whether it is hygroscopic, non-hygroscopic. That the simple dryers which has been put forward in the earlier slide also, and this also paper. If the temperature goes to 80-90 degrees centigrade, the material will burn. It will be not of any quality. Even animals cannot eat, what to talk about the man. So temperature is to be maintained. And in cabinet dryer, temperature cannot be maintained. Because the temperature can be maintained only by either allowing the air to flow or the humidity should go out. So it is not a single parameter, there are 10-12 parameters on which the drying depends.
By the end of applications, not for larger applications. Because as you know that the efficiency is very low. It's only about 11.9% for DSAC. But whereas for silicon, when you compare it, it's about more than 20% you can find it. So here, why I have said that DSAC is feasible for large scale solar is because one thing is the cost. So the cost for DSAC is $2.5. It is the installed cost, total installed cost. But when it comes to silicon based, then according to Pro something, it's an American company. So the cost for total installed cost for the solar cell on silicon based is about $3.
Solar modules. However, it is installed over the floats on reservoirs, hydropower reservoirs or drinking water reservoirs, where the conservation of water and to reduce the evaporation rate of the water is also important. The omission of civil cost and also the mechanical structures is also omitted development. Furthermore, the Tarai region, as we know, is arable land and is the breadbasket of the country, and use of such lands for deployment of land-based system can be avoided if it is used for agriculture purposes. So we think that the development of FSPV system would be good for in case of the Nepal as well. In general, for land-based PV installations, we use 20 watt per meter square per Kelvin thermal loss factor. But in case of water, the amount could go as high up to 200. And for analysis, we have selected 100 watt per meter square Kelvin for thermal loss. So I think that resulted the increase of capacity. The tilt angle because of effect of the wind pressure.
But by reducing tilt angle, you reduce the yield also.
And the reduction basically is the effect of water is counteracting the tilt angle.
I think you both on solar thermal and solar photovoltaic. Let us encourage and thank all of them together by clapping. Thank you very much.
And I guess now for the distribution of token of love, I would like to request the session chair to please come down on the floor, and I would like to call the presenters now. Next, I would like to call Vivek Gautam.
We will just start and jump into the presentations.
But I'm going to talk a little bit different in terms of the 1,500 kilometers from east to west. It houses about 240 million people, and as we are all aware, we are the youngest geological formation. Therefore, we are very challenged with its fragility as well as the mountain ecosystems that prevail in this region. And then there is high spatial variability in terms of climate, in terms of topography, and also this region is also known as the third pole. It's the largest reserve of snow and ice outside the polar region. And in this region you have 10 major rivers that originate from the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and primarily our interest for South Asia are the Indus, Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. Now, in terms of the hydrological processes, I think it's important here to talk about the importance of snow and glacier melt. And like I said, the major river systems, they originate from the Himalayas, and particularly it is fed by the snow and the glacier melt. And what we must note here is that the area of the glacier melt and area of the snow varies from basin to basin, that we heard early this morning also in several of the presentations. And also its impacts on water availability, which is very crucial for hydropower development. Then I would like to share with you some of the recent evidences on hydropower in terms of extreme events, particularly also regarding monitoring. Then the extremes in the future and what that would mean for water availability and what that would mean for hydropower development. Then of course mitigation measures as well as the conclusions. Publications that we see, for instance, Emerzel et al. 2010, also Rees and Collins 2006, shows what the different contributions of snow and ice is in these basins. And as you see, it varies from east to west across the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. The Indus Basin is more sensitive, with large portions being contributed by snow and ice. And gradually as you move towards the east, Ganges 10% and Brahmaputra 27%. And the subsequent glacial lake outburst floods that are there for the region. Now what does it mean to disasters? Well, disasters are on the rise, particularly water-induced disasters. And here you can see 40% of all the events are because of floods, and 52% because of people that the economic losses is also on the rise. Now in terms of the increasing trend, this slide here basically shows that it's increasing. A number of reasons, of course, climate change is one of them, but apart from them, some of the points that were raised this morning in terms of investments, in terms of capacities, in terms of governance, it equally plays a very important role when you are talking about hydropower development. So, when we summarize climate change impacts on water, we see studies that indicate temperature is rising, particularly in the higher elevations more than the lower elevations, increased risk of GLOF, then impact on the hydrological systems in terms of having too much water or too little water at one particular time, and increased occurrences of floods and landslides. $10 billion economic damage. You saw this slide earlier regarding the Uttarakhand floods, where more than 5,000 have been reported to be dead, as well as a lot of damage for infrastructure. This is to just remind us about the Jure landslide 2014 in Nepal, in the Sunkoshi Basin, where a lot of hydropower projects were affected. So according to the media reports, like you see,
to high pressure blades in terms of turbo machinery. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello everyone, my name is Chiranjeev Dayal, and today I am here to present to you about the thermostructural analysis of high pressure turbine blade. So let me quickly jump to the contents. These are my contents. First, let me introduce to the high pressure turbine. What does a high pressure turbine blade mean? I am concerned about the axial turbines. Those can be either gas turbines or steam turbines, which uses thermal fluid to extract power from it. So, in most of these high pressure turbine, the tip clearance means the distribution is uniform throughout the turbine blade. The temperature distribution profile is shown in green color. Notice that we have considered the temperature distribution to be actual distribution to be in black color. The maximum temperature is located around the 2/3 of the span of the blade. That is around here. The maximum temperature in a turbine blade is located around here, and we have assumed this temperature distribution profile. So thermal distribution. Coming to the mathematical modeling, assume that the thermal energy J is distributed throughout the turbine blade, which can be seen in the formula that it is given by rho into A into this parameter carries the usual meaning. Notice that the varying term is temperature with the span of the blade. Similarly, notice that the thermal deformation of the material is given by the del L into alpha into del T. If we consider the energy generation process to be cyclic, that is For a constant cycle, the energy is constant. The energy produced is constant from high nickel metal. I forgot the actual model. The data provided by the nickel corporation with the temperature and elasticity variation was provided by in tabular form, and we linearly approximated and find out this equation. From this equation, we can see that elasticity with variation in temperature can be calculated in terms of Kelvin. Equation, we see that the centrifugal deformation is dependent in temperature changes throughout the turbine blade.
I performed a presentation project on performance analysis of booster-based gravitational water vortex power plant. These are the outline we will be covering today. Gravitational water vortex power plant. So what is gravitational water vortex power plant? It's a small scale hydropower that operates at low head of around 0.7 meter to about 3.3 meter, and power will be extracted through vortex energy that is produced, that is water moving tangentially through the channel. The runner is installed at the basin through the central axis, and rotational kinetic energy of water causes the runner to rotate. It is a low head hydropower that produces hydropower of around 5 kilowatt, which falls under pico hydropower, and a micro hydropower range with 5 kilowatt to 100 kilowatt. It is suitable for off-grid areas and small communities. It is environment friendly because it doesn't harm any ecosystem and any other life system. Booster runner. What is booster runner? It is nothing more than a runner in series with main runner. It provides additional torque and produces